shadows come to dance, my lord, dance, my lord, dance, my lord. The shadows come to stay, my lord, stay, my lord, stay, my lord. This terrifying passage was uttered by uh, one of the strangest characters in George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. A character introduced in Clash of Kings, the second installment in the series. And that strange, strange character would be Patchface. Patchface is the Fool of Dragonstone. He is this short, squat little man who drowned in the waters of Shipbreaker Bay and was dead for 3 days. Only he came back as this supernatural creature with the power of prophecy. Throughout the series, he makes these cryptic songs and riddles foretelling major events throughout Westeros and beyond. The shadows coming to dance, as is written here, I think refers to the others, the supernatural end of days threat coming to kill everyone. And later, he'll make references to the Red Wedding, to the Greyjoys, even the Drowned God, I'm pretty sure. Which, like, I'm not certain, but Patchface, judging by the whole dead at sea thing, might be an envoy of the Drowned God. And I do think it's interesting that we are introduced to the Greyjoys and to the Ironborn and this whole culture built around the Drowned God and this watery religion in the same book, really, as we're introduced to Patchface, this evil little clown who is in service to the man least likely to have an evil little clown in his service, that being Stannis Baratheon. Stannis the Manus. Clash of Kings is the story of the War of Five Kings. Stannis, the one true king, fight me, you cowards. His beloved brother Renly, who is the younger, bolder, and far more comely of the two. Our man, Robb Stark, the piece of crap that is Joffrey Baratheon Lannister, whatever you want to call him, and the King of the Iron Islands, Balon Greyjoy. Yeah, he doesn't last long. But this is the sick and twisted little game board that George R. R. Martin has given us. And before long, I was at a loss as to who to root for. Because the Baratheons are hyper charming. Even Stannis, who's famous for not being charming at all. The thing is, from the abusive Robert and the egotistical Renly, and to the hard as iron Stannis, all the Baratheons are somehow charming in some ways to those who read the books, right? I know Stannis is not supposed to be charming, but I find him very endearing because he's charming in this his gruff bulldog Ron Swanson sort of way, right? He's this business-like, harsh. Nobody loves him, nobody cares about him, but I do. Because Stannis is the Manus, one of the smartest tacticians in Westeros, and he's the rightful king, which I guess doesn't mean much, the state of this world being what it is, but it's more than Joffrey has. He's not the rightful king. Stannis also has the very sympathetic Sir Davis Seaworth at his back, right? Davis the onion smuggler, who I find just to be one of the more interesting characters because he's the first lowborn character I think we're ever introduced to, really. He's the first character who is not some political player at heart. He's just an onion smuggler who got made into a knight, and people don't like him, but Davis is kind and compassionate, and he's dutiful to a fault. And he has friends and connections all over, and is like Stannis' greatest asset. Which, like, oh, we're talking about Davis and his friends. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our fresh batch of ridiculous, flamboyant characters, such as Davis's dear friend Salador San, that Iceni pirate, uh, in his like purple robes and all his gold rings and finery, and he's just so charming. And oh, I'm your dear friend, and oh, Sala would never hurt anyone. I was totally expecting that guy to betray Stannis at some point, to like take his ships and like join up with the Lannisters or something. But no, he stayed loyal. He helped save a whole bunch of Stannis's guys after the cataclysmic battle of the Blackwater. So he's actually trustworthy. Uh, Sort of an unusual habit for a sellsword. I'm not gonna lie, uh, but it makes him another neat character. Uh, and speaking of sellswords, uh, there's just the wide array of bonkers free riders and hedge knights and wild men who we're introduced to. We have in King's Landing the warriors that Tyrion's brought in from the Mountains of the Moon, right? We have the Stone Crows and the Burned Men, led by Shagga, son of Dolph, and Timett, son of Timett, respectively. These guys who burn themselves to prove how fearless they are, and wear skins and leathers and fight with like double-bladed axes, which are ridiculous. They're all crazy scary and strutting around beside all the pretty pampered lords and knights of King's Landing, right? And all the pretty silks and colors and velvets and so much heraldry it'll melt your mind, right? And then there's just these wild men wandering around who hate pretty much everyone. Uh, and Tyrion's got his own problems in King's Landing, right? He's taken power in the city and is really just strong arming everyone around him. We see him build this little impenetrable bubble of power around him, working with the extremely trustworthy Varys the Spider to bring order to the city, right? To do justice, all while Varys collects information on Tyrion and and informs on him to Cersei, and vice versa. He helps out Cersei and then informs on what Cersei's doing to Tyrion because Varys is up to something. There's something going on there that we're not privy to, and I'm still not entirely sure what that is. Uh, but Varys is obviously a lying and cheating and wheeling and dealing, and Tyrion knows this. He knows he shouldn't trust Varys. Only he does, despite himself. He makes these mistakes. He makes the mistake of cluing him in to sending the captain of the city watch to the night's watch, or plotting to kidnap his own nephew. Yeah, Tyrion sends some of his sellswords to capture Cersei's boy Tommen, this adorable little cherub. I don't know what happened to Joffrey, and they conduct Tommen to a castle where he's meant to be kept safe, right? Where he's meant to be held for his own protection. And this is still pretty effed up for Tyrion, right? Even if it's for a good reason, he still kidnapped a small child. But he knows that Joffrey's in danger. So he squirrels away Joffrey's little brother so that they have the heir at hand in case things go wrong. Uh, of course, there is the other cherub, that being Myrcella, but she shipped off to Dorne to form an alliance with uh, Duran Martell and them, and I'm sure that alliance will work out. It should be noted that I am currently reading A Feast for Crows, and it most assuredly does not work out. But I digress, because Tyrion, he thinks he's really clever in this book. He thinks he's outwitting his sister at every turn and bringing order to the city, when really he's just letting bad guys like Bronn and Tennantson of Timett run amok, while letting the really bad guys like Joffrey and Tywin go on with their campaign of blood and death and murdering everyone around them. Uh, Tyrion is the one who's trapped himself in this little bubble, uh, because it all comes back to bite him at the Battle of the Blackwater, right? He has made all these enemies, and finally Sir Mandon Moore slices his face open with a sword, and a 10-year-old Podrick Payne, the squire, has to save his fat from the fire. Uh, I mean, literally save his fat from the fire, because the Battle of the Blackwater, right? Um, but I'd like to point out how cool that was, right? I just love imagining Patrick Payne, this little boy, creep up on one of the most dangerous men in the realm at the moment, uh, and like I'm imagining him like whacking the knight on the back of the head with like an oar or something, and knocking him into the Blackwater Bay where he drowns. Uh, yeah, that's just fun to think about. Podrick Payne, everyone. But the bottom line is that Tyrion has made himself too many enemies. He's too obsessed with getting one over on Cersei and the small council that he forgets that he needs them. And he does need them. He's supposed to do justice. He's supposed to keep Joffrey and Tommen safe, and instead he's making threats and just causing trouble. Meanwhile, he's taken Shay, the woman he's been paying to sleep with him, and has gone and isolated her in the city, keeping her away from her friends and from the outside and from the outside world. Uh, and it's this weird little unhappy marriage he's created for himself, which kind of mirrors his own personal trauma. In in the books, Tyrion used to be married to a girl who who his father reveals to be a prostitute, and also has her tortured before Tyrion's eyes, and forces Tyrion to take part in this horrible savagery. And it haunts Tyrion. It and his relationships in the future reflect that in a myriad of ways, leading him down this dark, dark path. Um, but you know what? It's not dark. Well, it is, but it's not as dark as Tyrion's descent into like bitterness and despair and despondence and dread. Uh, that would be Bran Stark, though, in perhaps some of my favorite chapters in Clash, at least, insofar as that he's living it up at Winterfell f- for a while, and hanging out with the exceedingly cool Jojen and Mira Reed, who I freaking love. Creepy little Jojen, the Green Seer with his green dreams, and Mira dressed in chainmail with a bronze helmet and a three-pronged frog spear. Uh, they're just amazing, and I love them. I love the prophecies that take place right? Of how Bran and his brother Rickon are going to have their faces carved off, only to discover that the dream was in reference to how Theon, the stupid jerk that he is, and Ramsay Bolton were going to fake the deaths of the Stark kids. Uh, Bran and them actually, of course, escape. They escape uh, into the north, into the wilds, headed to meet the three-eyed crow beyond the wall, and they're going to have oh, I'm sure they'll be fine, right? Granted, Jojen apparently knows when he's going to die, and is probably going to die in the north. So, anyway, I freaking love A Clash of Kings. Uh, it's really when things start to go out of control and you start to realize how smart and conniving George R. R. Martin actually is. I haven't even mentioned half the stuff I wanted to talk about, like the Warlocks and Karth and Dany's crazy vision quest, or Renly Baratheon, the marvelous warlord that he is, who would have been the better king. As much as I love Stannis, Renly would have been the better king. He's the charming, wealthy, superhumanly charismatic king that I think people would have wanted. But Stannis is the one they're gonna get. The one true king, everybody. Uh, and I didn't even talk about the Ironborn either. But they'll get their time in the sun as well, or under the sea, I guess. Believe that they will. Uh, so I wanted to leave you with something. Another terrifying little comment of Patchface's. I mentioned Under the Sea earlier, and that was no mistake because, yeah, if Patchface is going to haunt my dreams, he might as well haunt yours. Because here we eat fish, the fool declared, waving a card about like a scepter. But under the sea, the fish eat us. I know, I know. Oh, oh, oh. I'll see you in A Storm of Swords.